Today we're going to be covering a very interesting subject. How can you buy like an investor? That is the most important thing. I think that we can all agree that we only have a certain amount of time in our lives. We only are going to be alive for a certain amount of time. But we can also agree that there's only so much money that we can make in our life. And through our life, we will only have a certain amount of credit that is extended to us by certain banks and so forth. We need to use all of our time, all of our credit, and all of our money to its highest and best use. And we need to do that so that we can have better returns so that you can retire sooner. That is the main goal. So if we know that, we got to figure out, where do we get that advice from? Everybody online is trying to tell us where we should be investing and how should we be investing. What I can always say is always look up. Look at the people who have the things that you want. Look at the people who are in the position that you want and seek out their advice. So, like I always say, follow what the billionaires are doing. If we look at people like Robert Kiyosaki or Bill Gates or Warren Buffett or Donald Trump, whether he's popular or not, he's doing the same thing that they're all doing, is reducing their tax base and increasing how much money they make. And the good news is that the cheat codes to life are in books. So we can read those books, understand them, put them into practice in our life, and then we'll be able to reap all of the benefits going forward. Well, that's a really good thing, right? So if you were sick and you had a medical issue, you would be seeking out medical advice from somebody, and that person would be able to have the experience and the education in order to help you. Not always are you just going to Nona, to fix a scraped knee. The same is true when it comes to like financial health. We also need to have experts that can help us, guide us. And so we can get that in the beginning from reading books. We can also get that later on down the road by getting advice and mentors from people who can help us, guide us, because they've been through those troubles as well. The reasoning on why we should be investing our time, money, and credit has already been covered. But then we come to the how. How do we buy a property like an investor would? We have 10 reasons that we're going to go over how you can buy a property like an investor. The first reason is the Canadian government, very similar to the American government, are now co-purchasing homes with citizens. Co-purchasing homes with citizens is so vital to understand that the government is in the business of buying and selling homes. Super, super important. They do not want their investments to go down. Number two, we also know that the governments and cities are in desperate need of taxes. And the taxes are in direct relationship to the value of the properties. As the properties increase in value, so does their tax base. The cities and provinces and states really do not want to let property prices fall and make their tax problems even worse. So that moves us into how can you? How you could do so is by using a lot of software and a lot of websites. So one of our reasons is to use Hood Q, for example. That website, you can subscribe to it. It'll let you know what are good school zones, if there's parks nearby, what kind of areas that they are, and it gives you walk scores. If you're a little bit more of an advanced investor, you can get into very highly technical, specialized targeting software. That software can help you figure out a lot of information about the area. Does this area have high immigration? Does it have a lot of jobs coming to an area? What are the average days on market, for example? What are price trends? We want to know all that information before we make a wise decision. Remember, guys, we always want to be buying the smallest house in the nicest area or the worst house in the nicest area. The area is what's going to sell. So if you can buy a smaller house that you can expand, or you could put some sweat equity into it, you'll really, really see a huge return for you moving on. Other things that we have to look at, we always have to look at owners versus renters. Who looks after a property more? Now this is regardless if you're buying a condo or a home. Who looks after your properties more, owners or renters? It's always owners. So if we're looking after a property, in an area that is very highly densely populated with owners, we have a much better chance of really pushing the values up in that neighborhood, and it's really going to stand out to us in the future, and we're going to make a lot more money off of it. What about ratios, guys? So if we're going to be looking at ratios, we need to know our numbers, we need to know our math. So when it comes to buying a property like an investor, we will be always looking at how much return do I get versus how much do I have to spend. So that comes down to price per square foot and the price per square foot for rent. So the price per square foot for purchase, price per square foot for rent, so that we could figure out what our ratios are. Remember, the most important number that an investor is looking for is return on investment. How do I get more money back for the least amount of money putting out? If you can pay attention to your numbers, the amount of time that it will take you to retire will be a lot less. What about if we look for average days on market? Some people look at certain areas and think that they can get a great deal in this area. The problem is sometimes it may take 4 or 5 months to sell homes in certain areas where you're looking for your cash flow. So to buy those properties, we have to make sure that the days on market are going to be a reasonable amount of time where we know that we can rent out that unit and start that income stream coming in. That brings us to another point. How do we target renters? Remember, we're never going to be just blindly putting a property up on the market. We are going to target certain demographics of people who would be able to be a perfect fit. I can think of some buildings in Toronto that we deal with on a regular basis, and those buildings are very, very high concentration of dentists because of the location, or a lot of bankers in some buildings, like we think of 38 the Esplanade or 1 Scott. Those buildings have a lot of bankers in it because of their location. So we will be buying buildings, units, condos, and targeting it toward a certain demographic of people who really, really want those buildings, and we will get the maximum return on investment. Always make sure that you have your deposits ready. The big key for you to have your deposits ready, liquid, in cash available to buy, is so important because you have to have that money ready to drop off within 24 hours. 24 hours, your deposit has to be dropped off legally for you to make the deal go firm. So it's very, very important that you have it available, not sitting in stocks, not sitting in something illiquid. You need to have access to that money immediately, because when a deal pops up, it's going to go really quickly. The last part that I wanted to tell you is how to build up your dream team. So to build up your dream team, it cannot be understated. So there are a lot of people online who do a lot of different promotions. The promotions could be things like Chris Crone or Clayton Morris or Grant Cardone. So I called one of them, and they wanted $5,000 to do all of the information in the background to find your property. So you can get some really good realtors who have all of that targeting software for you that could be worth hundreds of thousands of dollars. They can do all the research for you and audit certain buildings, condos, and homes, and they'll do all of that work for you for free. So remember, call around all of the investment agents that are in your area. Make sure that you find somebody who works really, really good with you, because those are the guys that will be able to do this work for you for free and help you save tens of thousands down the road. And that is only one part of your dream team. Another key person that you need on your dream team is your mortgage agent. So one of our clients this past week, they purchased a property and were infuriated by a mortgage broker that they used that was their friend. They tacked on a $1,000 premium onto their mortgage. So that $1,000 made them very mad, but that was nothing compared to another client who had $16,000 mortgage claim against them. So the mortgage broker charged $16,000 on top of the purchase price to package it together before they had them sign the paperwork. So that mortgage agent charged them $16,000 more than they had to. So by using the proper mortgage broker, you could save yourselves that $16,000 on one deal. So we could use multiple people to try to get the best deal and use them against each other. What happens if you have multiple properties? If you have multiple properties, you now are going to be able to save, could be $16,000 on every house that you own. So building your dream team can start with your realtor who can do a lot of the work for you for free, and he can use a really good mortgage broker who does all this work for you for free. You can save hundreds of thousands of dollars if you have the right team built from the beginning. I wish you the best. We're here for you all the time.